My name is Aryan Marwaha. I'm 21, 2003 born. Been playing football since I was about 4 or 5 years old. I played Spain, England, and the US. When I was 6, I remember I made the decision with my dad, I really want to go for this. My dad used to get loans, $100, $200 to be able to send me to tournaments, pay people to take me to games because he'd have to be working. My parents have sacrificed more than enough.
So why don't you take us back to where everything started? How did you fall in love with the game? What made you want to go on this path and pursue this journey?
Yeah, honestly, my earliest memories that I can recall are just football. Since I don't know, for me it feels like since I was born, it was just, okay, I want to play pro. Whatever I have to do, I have to make sure I can play this game for as long as possible. So I started playing, I remember house league when I was 4. Yeah. And then right away, there was something that my parents saw, that my coaches saw, where I was okay, this kid could play. I don't know why, but it just was. Yeah. So then I just continued, and then the next year I moved up to rep and whatever it is here in Canada. But when I was 6, I remember I made the decision with my dad, I really want to go for this. Yeah. So since then it was just preparing of just, okay, what do I got to do? Where do I got to go? How do I have to play? What do I have to improve on? How can I be a pro? Right? And how can I just play the game? So my love for football is just I don't know. That's all I know. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't really know anything else. It's just football. I don't know who I am without it. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned your parents. What role did they play in your journey? Because some parents, they're not as open to the idea of their kid becoming a professional because it's really hard. But what was their role?
My parents were just I don't know, honestly, God-given gifts type parents. I don't know. They supported me the whole way, which I'm incredibly grateful and lucky to have, because I know for a lot of people that's not there. But when it came to my parents, they were always okay, we'll give everything that we have. Even now to this day, they're willing to sacrifice everything they have just for me to get a chance at my dream. Because a lot of the times, you have to spend money and you have to go and do all these things if you're not signed up at a young age, right? But even at since I was young, my dad, and this is a very heart touching story to me, but my dad used to get loans from his friends for $100, $200 to be able to send me to tournaments or to pay people to take me to games because he'd have to be working, and my parents have sacrificed more than enough, so wow. I'm very, very lucky to have that. So they're number one for me for sure.
Wow, so it sounds like such a blessing.
Yeah, it really, really is, yeah.
So you must that must be in the back of your head as you're playing and pursuing your goal. It must be a constant thing of you're doing it for yourself, obviously, but then you're also doing it because they've been there along the way.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's it's very easy to take it as a pressure. Oh yeah, my parents did this, I can't fail. But at the same time, my dad also raised me to have a very advanced, strong mentality where it's okay, what's the opposite way? Right? So instead of thinking of it as my parents did this, I have to make them proud, I think of more of it as okay, I'm lucky to have this. This is a strength on my side. Yeah. This cannot be a weakness, right? Because once you put pressure on yourself, you're kind of taking away from the whole reason of doing it in the first place. Yeah. You don't play football to take pressure. You play football because you love it. Yeah. So if they're willing to sacrifice for me to play football, then I want to be able to play to the best of my abilities. And that kind of keeps me on track off the field too, right? As you grow older, things get harder. You have more distractions, more responsibilities. It's very easy to kind of slip, on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. But especially for me, when I think back, okay, do I really want to do this? No, because my parents sacrificed this much. I can't afford to, miss a workout or miss a session or eat out or something like that, because I know that I might be okay, whatever, I worked hard, but my parents are doing things that I don't even know of.
Yeah. So it almost sounds like that discipline that you have, it comes from there, if I'm not mistaken.
100%,
right?
Yeah.
And you talked about your mentality, this mentality that I guess has been built over time. Yeah. Said it comes from your dad. Yeah. And also what he's taught you and everything. Yeah. How has that played a role in your journey and the pursuit that you've been through?
Everything that I've been able to accomplish has just been, I'd say, thanks to my parents. My dad, he's a very emotional type of person. So since I was young, he's always just been trying to teach me things. He'll bring out articles of other athletes, of pros, whether it's cricket or soccer or basketball. He doesn't care. He'll bring it out and just tell me, okay, look, this is how he thinks. This is how you have to think. Yeah. Right. Or if there's ever any issue, if I'm stressed or pressured by something, he'll be the one to be okay, look, think of it this way instead. And keep in mind that this isn't somebody that's had a very lavish life or anything. This is somebody that's grinded from the bottom from where he's from too, right? My parents immigrated to here, Canada, from India from 20, 30 years ago now. Yeah. Right? And they came here with a negative account balance, and now they've built themselves a life where they can support a son and my older brother as well. So they've been through their fair share of hard things in life too. So this is somebody that really just sacrifices everything for his son.
Wow. I want to get into this later on about your whole journey and how you've been through different countries and you've experienced quite a bit. Obviously that comes with challenges.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dig into like some of those moments where you did feel the pressure, where it was challenging, and how were you able to surpass that? How were you able to deal with those things?
Yeah, like I feel like the beginning and like your roots are something that needs to be strong, right? Like just like in athletics or football, if you don't have like a strong like body per se, that's like your base, right? If your base isn't strong, you won't be able to handle challenges. If they build a skyscraper with a soft ground, it's gonna fall, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So when things get tough, you kind of rely back on those roots and that base. So for me, like I said, like my parents, my family, my upbringing, that's my base. So for me, some of the toughest moments were when I first went out. So I left, or I knew I was going to leave home since I was 6. I said I wanted to play pro. I didn't want to go like TFC or something. My goal was, okay, I want to play Europe. Right, as every kid is. Right, and so that was my goal. So I knew that one day I'm going to have to leave home. Right, and so since I was like 7, 8 years old, like little things such as like laundry, I've done myself, everything, because I wanted to be as independent as I can be. So I was prepared for these moments. Right, so when I first went out, I remember I was 14 years old, turning 15. And I left after I finished grade 10 early, and I just left to England for like a shady opportunity, right? But I took that risk and I wanted to go. And I remember like 3 nights, I didn't really get sleep because I was like, holy shit, like I'm actually here. Like it was like a little stressful. It was kind of like, I remember when I went there too, like we were in like the shittiest possible part. Like I could not believe that like I was here. You know, like it looked like a complete dump. Like, I don't know, it was bad, right? So I remember just looking out the window. It was like 3 a.m. at night and no one's there. I'm in a room alone with like some random host family that were like not very nice, but it was tough. And at that moment, it was like, okay, like where did I come from? Why am I here? Like, why am I doing this in the first place, right? Because even as you grow older, like I'm sure you notice too, like it's so easy to be like, okay, like, do I really want to go through all this again and again and again? Like it's just, you could live such an easier, simpler life on the side. But the passion that you have and like the roots and the upbringing, that kind of keeps you like, okay, like, no, this is my thing. You know, this is what I want to do. So I remember when I was, 14, I used to call my brother at like 3 a.m. in the morning. It'd be nighttime in Canada. I used to be like my older brother. So I'd call him and I'd be like crying or whatever. And he'd just be like, don't worry, like you got this, like you worked hard, like it's okay, like just keep going, right? And I remember after 3 days, I was there for 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, I had my first like pro trial with like the under 18s of a 5th division side in England. So it was like kind of like, you know, you have to work hard, you have to sacrifice. And then sometimes like, you know, you're going to get hit, right? In life, you're always going to get hit, but you just have to keep going.
Wow. So you've experienced a lot from a very young age. You knew what you wanted to do, and then you kind of went out and just did it, right? You were like, I have to make it happen. You mentioned going to England at that age, very young age, to leave home on your own. What was that like?
Honestly, to me, like I said, like the first 3 days, I felt like a little bit like at nighttime, because you're just alone at nighttime. You can't go to the gym or anything. But time off of the field is always the hardest. Like when you're playing football or when you're working out, like you don't feel like you're missing home because you're focused on that. But it was tough. But it's not like anything where I'm like, oh yeah, like I want sympathy for it. Like I chose to do that, and I would do it 100 times over again. Even if I knew that if I say I didn't succeed in life, I would still do that, because that was like everything I ever wanted when I was a kid. You know, like I used to train 8 hours a day just because I knew that if I was at home, I'd just be sad. You know what I mean? So I used to hit the gym twice a day, work out, train by myself, like everything I could, because I knew that like all these sacrifices have to be worth it. Not for myself, but for my family, for like my brother, for everyone. Because a lot of the times, especially at like a young age, before the age of 18, 20, I'd say, kids, and you don't really realize like what people are doing for you behind the scenes. You know, like I always say like to my friends and everything, like if you don't have to worry about something, that means somebody else is worrying about it for you. You get what I'm trying to say? Like if I don't have to worry about money when I swipe my credit card, that means somebody else is worrying about that money for me. Or like, you know, something else. But it was tough, but I loved it. You know, it was worth everything.
What would you say were some of those moments where you were like down in the dumps? Because it happens, right? It happens where you're completely on your own, or you're feeling a certain type of way. What were some of those moments for you?
Honestly, I feel like I had like a plethora of those moments, but that's just how life works. You know, you think that somebody else's life is better, but they go through the same things. But so for me, I had that when I was young. I think first time I had that was when I was 13. So I actually was playing quite well when I was younger. At this point, I didn't even know how to dive, right? Like, I'm a goalkeeper. I don't even know if I said that. I'm a goalkeeper. I didn't even know how to dive, right? Because the coaching was as bad, but I just loved it and I just did it. Like, I had zero fear. Even now I have zero fear. So that was a big thing, I guess. But I went to trial with Montreal Impact, with New York and Seattle. And I kind of got in to all three of them, but at that time the MLS had like a homegrown player rule, which meant that I technically belonged to TFC, even though I'd never like talked to anybody from there or played with them, like whatever. So I remember they contacted my dad, and I remember how excited I was because I was like, okay, like I would rather play for TFC, of course. Like, why wouldn't you, right? It's your hometown's like club, whatever. And me and my dad took a day off from work, which was like a really, really big deal back then, you know, like when things are kind of like below paycheck to paycheck. So I remember he took me, we went there, and the security guard basically kicked us out, right? And I remember like just like my dad being so upset, and like I remember how hard that felt for me too, and I was just pissed, and they just stopped responding. They rejected the clearance to let me go to MLS, or sorry, to Montreal or whatever, and they rejected my my papers, but they never signed me either. So they kind of just like left me in the blank, and I remember how like tough it was at 13, thinking like, holy, like I was so close to like what I wanted. And it would have been like incredible for me, of course, as a player, right, to get that type of coaching at such a young age, but I just didn't. You know, and I feel like after that, like club after club, opportunity after opportunity, sometimes like there's only so much you can do, right? But for me, the way my mentality is, like, if something went wrong outside of my control, then it's not something that I should necessarily be upset about. You know, like if I go to a club and the club says, okay, you're not good enough, then that's something that I can take with me and go home and be, okay, I can work on this, right? But like for me, like at least in Spain and England and these things, like I was taken up, like opportunities are taken away from me because of visas. I remember I was a week away from signing with Fleetwood under 18s. And that week, while I was waiting to meet with the academy director to discuss like my signing papers and my visas, COVID happened, right? So 6 days away from my contract, I'm sent home because I'm not a UK citizen, or I don't have a passport. So I have to go home immediately. And I remember like I went from like calling my parents. I still remember like very, very clearly. It was we trained at like 7, 8 in the morning. So I got in, and I remember like the coach kind of pulled me to the side, because at that time I was training with like their international academy, and I was training with the under 18s. So the coach pulled me aside and he's like, okay, look, like we're really, really interested in bringing you here. Like we're gonna talk to the academy director next week. We're gonna have your visas and your papers ready, and we'll get you signed. Right. And I remember like immediately like tears, like I was like, holy, like I made it, you know what I mean? Because for me that was, I mean, I think for anybody that'd be a great big deal. They were League One at the time, so 3rd division. And it was like going to be like the first at that time of like for a Canadian to play abroad. Huge, like that, you know, it would have been crazy. So I remember waking my parents up at like 4 or 5 in the morning in Canada. I called them like 10, 15 times, woke my dad up, and I was like, Dad, like they're going to sign me. Like I remember he started crying, my mom's crying, we're all like happy. And then literally 2 days after, I actually got to experience having a sponsor. So because they told like that I was signing, the sponsor, there used to be a glove sponsor for all the goalkeepers of the academy. So they used to sponsor all the goalkeepers. So they came in, and like the coach told me, okay, like after training, like you're going to have to stay late in the restaurant. Like they're going to bring the suitcases. You have to try on the gloves. So I stood there for 2 hours, like, you know, over the moon, like thinking like I'm in a dream, right? Like I was trying on gloves and clothes and telling them, okay, I like this one. I like this one. And it was crazy. It was such a good experience. And then I think 2 days after or a day after, on the Friday, I got told that, okay, you guys have to go home by Monday. You know what I mean? And then I went home, and it's just like blank, like no response, no nothing, because football moves quick. You know what I mean? Like no one's going to sit there and wait for me and be like, oh, you know, you're a good kid. Like, you know, I'll wait for you. Like they don't care. You know, they just go to the next goalkeeper. You know, and it's not like I'm Messi or something that they're going to be, okay, like we got to wait for this guy. It's, I'm just here because of how hard I worked and how hard my parents worked for me. So that's it, you know? So that was an opportunity taken away from me. I remember I went down like quite a deep hole after that, actually, and it took a long while to come back from those type of things and like work really hard, and mentality wise too, it was quite bad at that time. But even then I remember I was still hitting runs and working out and still training, because when things go wrong, the football is what kind of keeps you happy.
It's all you know.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you come back to your basics, you come back to your roots no matter what.
What were some of the things outside of football that helped you with that stuff? If I were to share like a bit of my thing, it's like when I was really young and I was away from home, I like watch a lot of like YouTube or like TV shows or movies, because it was an escape for me. I got to escape into this other world and not think about the fact that I was away from home. That's just like or music as well. You know? What were some of those things for you?
I mean, I remember for me, like, I actually wasn't allowed to play video games till I was like 16.
Yeah.
Because my dad was like, okay, like if you play video games, like that's not good for you. Yeah. So I remember first like starting playing like FIFA or like some other games. I had a laptop, started playing some games. So video games kind of helped me out. It gave me a chance to like kind of make friends in a separate like area of the world, like where it was like, okay, like I don't have to talk about football all the time.
Yeah.
Because like when you're working out and you're training like 6 minimum hours a day, which is what I was doing. Yeah. Like I used to get in early to training and I used to leave late to training every day. And like even though the academy boys had the bus that took us, like I used to wake up early and take the transport myself, like public transport, just to get to train early. Yeah. Right? Because like for me, like at that time with Fleetwood specifically, like we had access to their facilities, so it was like a dream. You know what I mean? Of course. But video games helped a lot. My best friend, he actually also plays pro with me right now in Spain, but he makes fun of me this first. But I used to watch horror movies alone because I literally, like, I want to feel interested into something. You know what I mean? Like I used to sit there in my hotel room and just be alone all the time. You know, like you get home from training at like 5 and like dinner's at like 7, whatever. And then like, what do I do for the rest of the time? You know, like I can't go to the gym again. You know what I mean? There's only so much I can do in the gym. So then, like, I just watch like a horror movie and just watch it alone in my room just to feel scared or, you know, feel interested in something. Yeah. And of course, like, I actually met my girlfriend while I was talking. She actually lives here in Canada, but she helped me a lot too. And especially like recently, things have gotten like very, very rough for the past like year and a half, I'd say. She's helped me a lot through those type of things. I'm very lucky to have her too. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm pretty lucky. I feel very blessed when I think about it, of course. You know, I have a good support group around me. I have my parents, my girlfriend, my best friend, all these people, like, they really keep me on the right path and they help me whenever things get rough. Yeah, for sure. It sounds like you have different elements outside of the game that are helping you with the game, right? Yeah. How important has that balance been for you? I feel like a balance is really necessary, especially because I feel like there's like 2 categories of players, right? There's the players that kind of get noticed and get looked at and kind of are able to move up that way. Yeah. They have a completely different set of challenges, right? Which I could not relate to because that just wasn't me. You know, like I had my opportunities when I was young, but it wasn't like I was like a, you know, playing for Team Ontario or playing for Canada, that type of player, right? I was more of like, okay, like I'm just going to work my butt off and just work really, really hard and get somewhere. So for me, it was just focusing really hard on that. And that with this type of player, a balance is sometimes necessary. Yeah. Sometimes you will burn yourself out. And I remember, like, for the first time in my life, I remember getting that feeling of like, holy shit, I think I'm actually like burnt out. Like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. Because at that time, like, things were just so like rough. Like, I had no opportunities. Like, it was just like negative after negative after negative. And I remember like coming back from that, and it's just sticking to it, right? Especially if you're in like a rough time. Like you hear online all the time, but you really just got to weather the storm and just keep going. And eventually, I believe that things will get better. Yeah. Right. If you're ready for the situation, you just keep working hard. Because like, for me, it's a constant. You know, like sometimes, like my dad used to tell me too, like your mentality should always stay like this. Your emotions should always stay like this. Your performance might go up and down, you know, depending on your day. Because sometimes like you could put in the same amount of work every single day, every single week. Yeah. Maybe on Sunday or Saturday, one day you'll play 10 out of 10, one day you'll play 3 out of 10. Yeah. That's just life. Yeah. Right? But the work that you put in on the off days, the mentality that you have, your diet, all these things are under your control. They're your constants. Right? So even when things get rough, even when I feel like, hey, I'm burnt out, I need to do my constant. That's it. Yeah, for sure. I love that. I want to pivot now to kind of just more talking about your journey, like the steps that you took. Can you give us an outline of like, because you left when you were young, you went to England. What was like the outline of your career, I guess, from there? When I was here, I finished off playing with Bryce. Okay. I went to 2-3 different clubs. Not too many when I was young. I was kind of more just, my dad used to put me in the shittiest club possible, right? Like he used to look online, find a team that's like last place and be like, okay, let's go there. Because he knows that I'm a goalkeeper. Yeah. If they're last place, their defense is probably bad, which means I'll get them all to work, right? So that used to be my thing. So I used to play for whatever club I had here. And then I left. We kind of talked to this agent type person. He ended up kind of like a scam, but I'm a pretty religious person, so I'll say thanks to God or whatever. Things kind of worked out. Like we used to train in a public park, like it was like private field, but it was a public park. And there was a guy, it was in Blackpool at the time. Yeah. And Blackpool is quite a big football club, right? They stay, I think they're League One still, 3rd division right now, but they used to be Premier League, of course. They had a scout walking his dog, and he kind of scouted me from there, which was crazy to me. You know, like that guy, he just sent me to the academy, and I went there, trained with them for a bit. But they weren't interested in spending the money required to get me a visa and to go through that process, because at that time Blackpool was going through a change of ownership, right? So the entire city, like, nobody used to go to the games.
Yeah.
It used to be me and like 2 other people, right? Because I was like, I want to go, I want to see this, right? So they didn't really have money. So then I kind of just didn't really get much from there, but except for an experience and opportunity, and a little bit of belief, you can say, right? Where it's like, okay, like, I have a chance. And then I went to a club called AFC Fylde. They play 4th and 5th division. They were 5th division now. They're 4th now in England. They're also not the same northwestern area of England. Trained with their 18s, their 21s. I was 16 at the time, so that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And then from there, I got scouted to Fleetwood. Went there, but they had like this setup where I think they still have it now, where it's like a paid program.
Okay.
But obviously, like, funds are tight. You know, like I told you the stories. Like, of course, like it's a large amount of money. They used to work with me and try to make it as like easy for me to as possible, and a lot of the times they used to pay for a lot of my stuff and take care of me, but that was good. So then they took me out for trial, and initially I don't think they really thought I had anything in me. Yeah. But when they actually saw me play, when I went for the trial, like, I remember we did a shooting drill, and I think they scored like 2 goals in like an hour and a half. Like, it was, I remember like just how good that day was for me. Yeah. So it worked out, and actually, coincidentally, like a little bit of luck again, the owner of the club was actually there. Right. So I don't know, a little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work. Yeah. But so he saw me. And then when I went back, this was in like November. I went back the next year in January, came home for Christmas, obviously, and then went back in January. And I remember they put me into the 18s. And those 18s that I played with, they won the league, they won the cup, they won everything. Right. A lot of those 18s actually moved up to Manchester United's academy, because Fleetwood's quite close. They have a good relationship there. So a lot of those players, they're all playing pro now. Most of them, at least, the starting 11. And that's the team that they were going to sign me for. So then that was the team I was playing with for 3-4 months. And then obviously, like I said, like, I was going to sign. COVID happened, came home in March or April, I'd say. And then after that, it was just a whole bunch of like nothing. And then I went back to Fleetwood, but it wasn't the same. Yeah. Those 18s were obviously gone. That was their last year as 18s. And they just never really gave me a chance again. You know, because obviously it just wasn't the same. And then I met my best friend, Abhi. He lives in my neighborhood. Yeah. You know, like in COVID, I met him. I just went to go running, and he was there. And immediately it was kind of like another like God-given type gift, where it was, okay, like, here's, like, for me, he's a brother. Yeah. You know, like, he's been there for me. He's helped me with everything. And I've seen him more than my entire family for the past like 4 years. Like, since I met that guy, like, it's just me and him 24/7, whether it's football, it's just me and him, right? So we do everything together. I met another friend of mine as well, Cherish, same thing. We really do everything together. So after that, he kind of had a coach that he was training with. His name is Carlos. I used to train with him, and he got us an opportunity in Spain, which I ended up not being too successful. But again, it's like, these things, like, at that time, they might hurt. They might be like, oh, this wasn't worth it. This was not the right step. But it's setting you up for something better. For sure. Right? So it kind of set us up for something better in the future. And then we went back and we played, we went to trial, believe it or not, for a 7th division club. Wow. Right? And just like we're sitting here on a field, I'm training with the 7th division club. Like, me and my friend Abhi were looking around like, bro, like, what are we doing here? Yeah. Like, this is going to be rough. But coincidentally, again, there's a guy sitting in the stands. And this guy played for Spain. His name is Iñaki. He played for Spain, played for Real Sociedad for like 20 years. Like, he played everything. You know, he went to the World Cup, everything. So he had a contact with a team called SD Compostela in the northwest of Spain. They play 4th division. And he, like, we've never met this guy in our lives before. And this guy immediately just, like, fell in love with us for some reason. Both of us, which is even crazier. I remember he took us out to dinner, and he's like, okay, like, he doesn't speak like a word of English, and we don't speak a word of Spanish. So for 3 hours, like, we're sitting there at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's just translating back and forth, like, words. And then I remember he's like telling me, oh, Aryan, you got to do this, you got to do this. I'm like, okay. I was like glad to take advice. And at this time, we didn't even know who he was. Right? Like, he invited us to his house like a few days after, and we saw, okay, like, bro, this guy actually played for Spain. But at that time, we had no idea who he was. You know, like, he didn't say like, oh yeah, I played for Spain. And he just said, okay, like, I talked to somebody in SD Compostela, a team we've never heard of. Take your flights and go there. And like, maybe call us stupid, but me and my friend were like, all right, let's do it. Why not? If that's an opportunity, let's do it. If we can go from trying out for a 7th division team to a 4th division team, then I'll take it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So then we just randomly took a flight, went from east of Spain to the northwest of Spain, so the opposite corner. And from there, that city was quite like tough for me and my friend both. It was just like not a nice, too nice of a place.
Yeah.
But he ended up playing for Nacional. He's 2 years younger than me, so he was playing for their juvenil squad, so their youth academy.
Yeah.
Which is like, he was playing for the second highest level of youth in Spain.
Okay.
So he's playing against like Celta Vigo and like La Liga academies at like the age of like 17, which is really, really good for him. And for me, since I was above the age of juvenile, I couldn't play academy anymore. And they were playing me in their second team, so their B team. And at that point, I wasn't ready for first team football, and I wasn't good enough either.
Yeah.
So that experience for me was really like tough, I'd say, because my friend, he did really well. He was given opportunities with like the first team as well to go like train with them and stuff like that. And I used to go and just like support him and just sit there in the stands and watch the first team train and everything, right? And like I used to see them, I'd be okay, like I want to play here, right? And me and my friend both, we worked our asses off all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No matter what, whether we got that opportunity or not. But that was the first real chance that we had playing with pros.
Wow.
So I remember like, especially at that time, I was not fit enough. I wasn't good enough. There was a lot of things that I needed to work on that kind of got exposed when you go to a higher level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's one thing too. It's tough as footballers here in Canada or wherever else it is to kind of move up if you're not able to expose yourself to a higher level of football.
Yeah.
If I play by myself every day, I don't know how good other people are. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know, like
sure.
when I played with those pros, I realized, okay, like I got to be like 100 times better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I might have felt more comfortable with who I was before I went there because I don't know what level is there.
For sure.
Right? So that time I remember used to be gym like 2 or 3 times a day, like a lot of running, a lot of fitness, a lot of work. And then as many trainings, I used to train with the B team, C team, the youth team. Like I used to have 3 trainings. I used to do everything I possibly could because I knew that I really needed to step it up and quick.
Yeah.
Right? And in COVID time, I gained a lot of weight. So I actually lost about maybe 80 or 45 kilos, sorry, in about less than a year, right? So you can imagine
45 kilos.
Yeah, so you can imagine just how much work I put in and like how strict I was with my diet. And my friend Abhi, I forced him too. I was like, bro, and he was listening. He was like, bro, let me go out once. For him, it's easier. I'm vegetarian, so no chicken. It's a lot harder that way too.
Yeah.
But for him, he's like, bro, just get chicken and rice, please. I'm like, no, man, you're suffering with me, right? So he suffered too. He's a really, really good guy. He suffered a lot too with me. So we worked really, really hard together. And like a lot of the times, like it's nice to have him there, where it's like, okay, like sometimes I might be down or sometimes he might be down. We're there for each other like that. But obviously, I lost all that weight, and then just before I left, our coach that I used to train with, Carlos, if you remember, he kind of knew a player in a team called Jerez.
Yeah.
So this team was playing 5th division at that time. They also used to be first and stuff, but they had some financial issues. So we kind of got into contact with him a little bit, and he was interested in talking to the president for us to maybe bring me and Abhi on for trials in the following season. So we had to decide between like, because for me, they were offering me like kind of practice with the first team, play with the second team for Compostela. And for my basically brother, for Abhi, they were saying for him to play in the honor division, which is like against Barcelona, Real Madrid. Like it's a really good opportunity. So, but we made that risk of going to Jerez instead. So when we went to Jerez, like it was tough at the start again, but we really, really got a little bit of success there and worked really hard. For me personally, it was a little bit more. I was able to kind of break into the first team a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember we spent like the first month just with the second team because they knew right away, okay, these guys aren't first team quality.
Yeah.
And again, it was one of those like, okay, like this is the level now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I bring myself from here to here, then I get exposed to a new level. So now I have to bring myself up again. So it was another situation like that. And it was the same for my friend too. Like he worked so hard during that time, like we both do. And we always did. So we just worked really, really hard. And like, thankfully we were given, I remember I was actually going grocery shopping. I got a call from the goalkeeper coach for the first team. And I don't even know who he was. So he just called me and he's like, okay, like it was a Tuesday. And I remember he said, okay, like on Thursday in the morning at 10 a.m., you have to come to this field. And it was all in Spanish. Yeah. And at this time, like we're still new to Spanish. Yeah. Like, we don't really know it like that. So I'm like getting him to repeat it like 5-6 times and I feel bad. I'm like, bro, he's not going to sign me, you know, but I ended up getting understood.
Yeah.
And then I remember we went and I was still like, so I lost the weight. but I still had a lot of loose skin. So I still wasn't super comfortable with myself. I remember like the first day, like they gave us like the tireless jerseys, which is just like a player jersey. So I was like the only keeper wearing a player jersey, and it just felt weird.
Yeah.
So I played there. I remember the shirt didn't even fit me right, but it is what it is, you know. And then I don't know, they must have liked something. So after that day, I went to every single first team training session, and I was there for the games. I was there in the changing rooms. They're all my friends. I still talk to them now. I still talk to the goalkeeper coach now, and it went really, really well. Like I actually got my first experience of like playing pro. I had I don't know. I was really lucky. I had like these like few fans of mine. You can say like, you know what I mean, like. I got to sign my first autograph for somebody. Like I remember, like the guy brought the shirt, and I was like, "Oh, like who do you want me to give it to?" Right? And he's like, "No, I want yours." I was like, "No, you don't." And I was like, yeah, I was like, "No, you're joking, right?" No, but I got to sign like his little football. I still remember. I'll never forget that. You know, that's something no matter what happens in life, like that's something I'm gonna hold dear to my heart for sure. Right? That's something that everybody dreams of. Yeah. And I remember I woke my dad up for that too. I was like, "Dad, like you won't believe this." You know what I mean? But yeah, that luckily that happened a few times, and I remember going up onto the grass, onto the field, like in front of all the fans. There's 8,000, 10,000 people there. And I remember like clapping with them after the game and like talking to the people, and it was a crazy experience. And like the training was really good. I was the best football I've ever played in my life for sure. And that team was first place all the time. They were like one of the best teams in the league. Yeah. And they're sitting first place in the 4th division right now too. Wow. So they obviously got promoted and everything. And again, like one of those things where like life is going to give you hard moments. My agent at the time kind of had a fight with the president, and me and Abby both kind of got kicked out from the president. Damn. So that's how that ended, unfortunately. But like you said, you know, like things happen sometimes out of your control, right? So it was one of those moments.
You know, you mentioned like, you know, things have aligned themselves quite a bit. How do you, like on a personal level, how do you kind of like justify those things aligning? Like, you know, you mentioned like your spiritual God and everything. Yeah. How do you justify that? Honestly,
it gets really tough, but it's just like I said, just your core, like who you are as a person. Like that's what's most important to me, right? Like who I am with other people, who I am when nobody's looking. That's important to me. And the way that I believe is that if I do these type of things right, then things will work out for me one way or another, right? Like that's just all I can control.
I love that.
Right? Like it's not my responsibility to put a Barcelona contract in front of me, right? But it's my job to be ready in case there's an opportunity for that. Sure. You know what I mean? Like if I put in the right work off the field, if I put in the right work on the field, my diet, my training, if I keep myself away from distractions and I make the right sacrifices, at least I know at the end of the day, at night when I sleep, I made the right steps.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes like things look a little bit too far away. Yeah. You know, it's important to just look day to day, hour to hour. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. All right, just to wrap this up now, I have a few more questions. First one is, what is something that football has taught you about life?
It's just dedication and just like enduring everything, right? Like with football specifically, like it's shaped obviously who I am since I was a kid. And I'm going to use football for the rest of my life, whether it's, I don't know, whatever I end up going into in the future, football is going to be at the forefront of who I am, right? The experiences that I've had in different countries, different languages, different people, cultures, these things are going to help guide me. And I notice how they guide me already, right? They're giving me experiences and learning tools, but also like on a mental and emotional, like maturity level, right? Being able to take care of myself when I was 13 years old is not something small, right? That's something that I can use when I'm older and I use right now, right? I might be 21, but the same things that I learned when I was a kid are kind of guiding me through life right now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
For sure. I love that. And what advice would you give to young players out there who are pursuing their own journey, that are, you know, on their journey right now?
I think for me, like the best advice would be just do everything in your power, and then whatever's not under your control, try not to let yourself be down about it. Because life gets 10 times worse when you start getting down about things that you can't control. Yeah. You know, because there's only so much that you can do, right? If you work hard, you do the right things, you try to improve yourself in whatever way you can, and not just like physically, like training wise, mentally, through your diet, everything like that. These are very important things. You know what I mean? And just be a good person. Like that really gives you that confidence on the inside that like, you know what, like I'm gonna be okay in life. You know what I mean? So just do whatever you can. And like I said, like you can't control the contract offer coming to you, but you can control you being ready for it. So just make sure that no matter what happens, you're ready for it.
Love that. And last thing, what's next for you? What's next in your journey?
For me, like, of course, me and my friend, we're now planning to go into Spain. We want to play maybe in North America first. So we have about a trial coming up next month, so in a few weeks. But we also have a few teams in the 4th and 5th division of Spain that we're heading back to.
Very cool.
But we'll see. I think for sure something's going to work out. But like I said, we're just working hard. You know, like it's not up to us whether we get the contract offer, but we're going to do everything we can to be ready for it.
Well, wish you all the best, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this, bro.
Of course. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you. Man.